To catch the ferry to go over onto Fraser Island, you have to stop here at the National Parks and Wildlife Information Office and make out an application and pay a fee. So we'll go up and we'll do that now.
Okay. Hello. How are you? Very good. Going to Fraser Island?
Yes, right.
Okay. Camping permit is $7.50 a night, and your vehicle access fee is $15 for a month.
Okay.
You haven't got any dogs?
No, mate, no dogs.
Okay, motorbikes?
No motorbikes.
Righto. Okay. Could you just sign it, please?
Yeah.
I'm in the front back cafe this morning, didn't you?
You read it?
Yes. So, probably what you want to do. Well, I know.
There's no dogs allowed at all on Fraser Island, mate?
No, definitely not.
No,
As from the 1st of December, all dogs are banned from Fraser Island.
Parks and Wildlife Office, we double-check the tides, and then we go to one of the service stations. The boys feel it's safer to leave the mainland with a full tank of fuel.
When you arrive at the beach, the first thing you have to do is to let your tyres down. We recommend the tyre pressure that you want to run along the beach on about 12 to 18 pound pressure. When you first enter onto the beach, this is the softest section that you'll come onto.
Fraser Island is the largest sand island in the world, situated just 190 kilometres from Brisbane. The island stretches over 125 kilometres. Its highest peak, 235 metres. From the service station, it's a 2-kilometre drive to the beach. On entering Rainbow Beach, beware, as it's one of the softest sections of sand you'll encounter. Once you've crossed the soft section, it's an easy 10 k's to Inskip Point, where you'll meet the barge. There is an inland road from Rainbow Beach to Inskip Point, but it's not recommended, as it's extremely rough. A warning, it may look easy towing a caravan on soft sand, but both of these vehicles are not standard four-wheel drives. Access to Fraser Island is by vehicular barge, aircraft, passenger launches, commercial tours and private boats. Four-wheel drive vehicles are the only practical means of travelling on the island. As we round Inskip Point, the sea is calm and the water is crystal clear. We're tempted to stop for a swim, but decide to carry on as we can see the barge in the distance.
You've got the choice of 2 ferries here to take you across to Fraser Island, and both of these ferries are drive-on, drive-off ferries.
The trip across from the mainland to Fraser Island is a pleasant 10-minute journey. Just enough time to walk around and stretch your legs and appreciate the cool sea breeze. We're disappointed we can't give you the current fares of the 2 barges, but at the moment there's a price war, so shop around when you go. When reaching Fraser Island, you'll notice a small inland track. It's recommended that you take this track on high tide, as the beach can be impassable. The first 2 kilometres can be very dangerous, as the tides have uprooted the trees and there's a lot of debris on the beach.
once you're on Fraser Island and you're off the ferry, turn to your right and then just follow the coastline. About 30 kilometres up the track, you'll come to the first village of Eurong.
Camping on Fraser Island is a memorable experience. You'll enjoy discovering the true beauty of this so far unspoiled wilderness. After leaving Inskip Point, the first 20 kilometres isn't recommended for camping as there's no fresh water streams. This was the sand mining area of the early 70s. Brumbies are the largest animals on the island. They're the descendants of the horses brought over by the timber cutters in the late 1800s. Their numbers have since been reduced to a few straggly herds. When searching for a campsite, it's a great advantage if you can find one near a fresh water stream. There are quite a few of these streams between Dilly Village and Indian Head. Drinking out of these streams is apparently safe, but we feel that all creek water should be boiled first. National Parks and Wildlife have conveniently situated rubbish bins all along the coast, so there's no need to take your rubbish home or bury it. After finding a suitable camping site, we were ready to start enjoying this beautiful island. The journey from the National Parks and Wildlife Office at Rainbow Beach to our campsite on Fraser Island has taken just over 1 hour.
It's a bit hot for my pancakes. Okay. Yeah.
Lunch finished, and we were all eager to get down to the beach and look for some bait. Getting bait is easy, if you know how. Watching the cars that drive past on low tide, you'll notice the pippies forced to the surface by the vehicle's weight. All that is left is to walk along with a bucket and look for the small mounds. Another very easy way to find the pippies is to look for the pied oyster catchers. Wherever they are, the pippies are sure to be. Beachworms make an excellent bait, but catching beachworms is much more difficult than catching the fish. However, beachworms are available in stores on Fraser Island. If you'd like to catch them yourself, you need a stinky bait for burley, a piece of fish or pippy for finger bait, and put the stinky bait in an old onion bag and drag it through 2 to 3 inches of water at low tide. When the worm surfaces, put the finger bait in front of it. As the worm bites at the bait, you'll feel a small tug. Putting your other hand beneath the sand, slowly apply pressure. When it bites into the bait, it will swell up, which gives you the signal to pull the worm out.
These are the pippies we caught earlier in the afternoon. It's around about 4:30 now. Now I got a feeling there should be a few trevally and bream coming into this hole that I'm going to have a fish in. First of all, I break the shell, the lazy man's way, of course, on the chrome work of the rod. Put the pippy on. I usually go through the flap end, bring it around and in through the stomach part of him. There's a little bit of tough piece left over and I work that around the hook. There's really no set pattern to put a pippy on, but that's the way I do it. Most fishermen have got their own techniques anyway. Towards the valley, there's a close-up of the pippy. That's how I put him on.
Fraser Island is a fisherman's paradise. The gutters along the beach provide excellent fishing all year round. During the warmer months, the gutters abound with swallowtail, whiting and flathead. The winter months bring on bream and tailor.
While Bob's down there trying to get us a fish for something to eat tonight, I'm here digging this hole so we can all have a bit of a tub. That's why we camp right near these little streams. They're fresh water, they run into the ocean, but they're very shallow. They're also full of yabbies There he is. And he's into me too, look at him. Little freshwater shrimp. He's giving me what for? These little streams are full of them. Alright, there he is, and we'll let him go.
A warning, there are no life-saving facilities on Fraser Island. One of the best parts of any camping holiday has to be the participation of all members of the family. Now, making damper can be easy. All you need is flour and a little salt for taste. Here, Sheena, Stan's wife, is using milk, but you can use water or even beer, whichever is handy. And a good-sized damper only takes 3 or 4 minutes to make. Adding nuts, sultanas or dates is a nice alternative to the original recipe. While Sheena was making the damper, she overheard Bob and Stan reminiscing about previous trips to Cape York, when they were bogged on an isolated coastal area for 3 days. And that's where damper became a very important part of their diet. After that experience, they never go camping without their damper pot and flour. This is what makes Fraser Island so special, combining the remoteness of Cape York with the convenience and safety of home. The secret of making a good damper is not to make the damper too large. Getting the coals really hot and only leave the damper in the camping oven for 10 minutes. Camp ovens can also be used for baked potatoes and even a roast. Our neighbours also towed a caravan onto the island. They agreed with us that towing with a standard 4-wheel drive, you must really watch the tides. Sitting at the table having a chat, our neighbours put the spanner in the works by informing us that the previous storms had made it impossible to cross from Orchid Beach to Sandy Cape, which is where the next part of the trip was going to take us. Our plan is to go inland to Central Station, take in Lake Mackenzie, and then back up the coast heading up toward the top of Fraser Island.
Make sure I don't burn my feet.
Move away, Rach.
We're all a little disappointed that we may not be able to make it to the top, as we haven't got that much time left on the island. While we were enjoying our marshmallows and damper, 2 dingoes were sneaking around. But only one of them was game enough to come close to the camp. The girls were tempted to feed the dingoes, but we reminded them about the warnings from national parks.
I'll show you fellas the handle.
No, this is real busted.
Hey, tell you what, there's nothing wrong with that, mate. Is that right? No. Just this stuff. Really good. That's good. Oh, great stuff. Oh. That's good gear up. That's nice stuff, mate. Nice stuff. Maybe that's 35, starting out of 30. Don't know much about these things. Oh, they're only grabbing it. It's like having a lolly that goes sit in the sun, isn't it?
Maybe you want one? Yeah, those ones.
Only 100 metres from our campsite, we spotted something on the water's edge. We've been coming to Fraser Island for 8 years now, but we've never been this fortunate. The fishing floats we've collected in the past have been only plastic. Right time, right place, and the glass ball was ours. Only a few more minutes and someone else would have driven by and picked it up. Providing you're an early riser, the beachcomber can still find lots of treasures, especially after a stormy night. We've found lots of unusual and beautiful shells and bottles on previous trips, but most of these finds have been on the southern part of the island, mostly because there have been less campers. In the 3 days that we were here, we searched the beach shores and found some very old jars, bottles, and also some beautiful shells.
Well, after the heavy storm last night, we've got about approximately 20 to 25 knot winds blowing here. The girls have been frolicking along the beach, and they've found a lot of weird and interesting things here that have been washed up out of the ocean and unearthed through the sand dunes. They've got old bottles and shells, and even one that's quite rare, one of the larger ones. We'll go and have a closer look at them. Now, on a previous trip here to Fraser Island, we found something that people talk about but have never ever discovered or found themselves. And we'll just open this up and show you. We feel that this is a very rare thing to happen, and it's true. It's the message in the bottle. This one is dated 1985 and written by a Fijian fisherman. The old bottles I found, that's an old champagne or wine bottle. You can see how it's all dull and marked because it's been laying in the sand. That's a preservative jar, dated 1858. That's an old schnapps bottle. And that's another very old beer. We're going up now to have a look at some Aboriginal middens. We're at a Aboriginal midden site here. This is where the Aboriginals would have spent a lot of time having a feast of shellfish, and you can see their shells laying all over the area where the girls are walking right down to where we're standing. And who could guess the age of this? It could be 200, it could be a couple of 1,000-year old. It's a very sacred site. This is a carcass of a dead dingo, and on Fraser there is a lot of dingoes around. This one's laying just near the Aboriginal midden. In my hand is a small tool that the Aborigines would have used to open their shellfish. It's got a sharp corner, and that would have been to get in, possibly inside the muscle part of the pippy, and use it for opening up their meal.
Aboriginal middens have been unearthed by the coastal winds. They can be seen in most areas along the beach and must not be disturbed. Dilly village is 24 kilometres from the barge. The village has accommodation and is a recreational and fitness camp. We leave Dilly village and head approximately 10 kilometres along the coast to Yurong. This aircraft takes off and lands on this stretch of beach, ferrying passengers on joy flights over the island. It's quite an attraction on its own. Eurong is about 35 kilometres north of Hook Point, where the barge lands. It also offers a full range of accommodation, motel and caravan parks. The amenities include hot showers, septic toilets and laundry facilities. Leaving Eurong, we head west approximately 10 kilometres to Central Station, which is located halfway between Eurong to the east and Ungana to the west coast. From Central Station, there are clearly marked signposts north bringing you out at Lake Mackenzie, and you can continue on a scenic route to Happy Valley, which is approximately 30 kilometres from Central Station. There's also a clearly marked track that takes you down to Dilly Village, heading south, with sights of at least half a dozen lakes. Here we can relax and enjoy a peaceful and scenic drive through heavily timbered areas and into some of the most beautiful rainforests Fraser Island is famous for. When travelling along the inland tracks, always remember to fuel up before leaving. The only service stations on the island are Eurong, approximately 35 kilometres from Hook Point. Then you have Happy Valley, 20 kilometres from Eurong. Next is Cathedral Beach, which is approximately 18 kilometres from Happy Valley. And the last fuel stop is Orchid Beach Resort. All service stations are on the east coast. When visiting Fraser Island, Central Station is a must to see. Central Station has a beautiful camping and picnic area where one can camp nestled amongst the tall trees. Originally, Central Station was a forestry camp set up in the 1920s. Visit the information centre and spend a few minutes browsing around. It has a story all of its own. When the scrub timber stands diminished, loggers turned to hardwood timbers, such as blackbutt and tallow wood. In 1908, part of the island was declared a state forestry resort. The energetic bushwalker can spend hours walking through clearly marked, picturesque walking tracks.
That little orchid there is one of the few species in Australia that doesn't produce a leaf. The small flower spike on the end of the stick just comes straight out of the root mass. Top of this tree just in front of me there's quite a large elkhorn. And while we've been looking around, just over on this old mossy log down here is the Cymbidium suave, or the snake orchid. Come and have a look at this stand. Here's a Christmas orchid still in flower. Have a look at that, mate. That orchid, by right, should not be in flower. It only flowers around December, November. And here we are, we're in halfway into mid of January and it still shouldn't be in flower.
What a pretty little flower too.
That's the Calanthe triplicata, the Christmas orchid.
Oh.
Of special interest on the island is the abundant and coloured birds, of which there are over 200 species. On early morning walks through Central Station, you may be fortunate to come across some of its fauna. All the plants on Fraser Island have one thing in common. From the tropical palm trees to the large blackbutts, they all grow in sand. They survive in the infertile sandy soil by the recycling of nutrients. Dead vegetation rots into humus, and the nutrients return to the soil and are quickly absorbed by the plant roots. After we spent a few hours walking through the rainforests with its crystal clear creeks, we were all eager to move to our new destination, a well-deserved drink, and we're off to Lake Mackenzie. We travel through Pyle Valley, which is the home of some of the tallest timbers on Fraser Island. Remember, caution must be taken when driving on the inland roads, as they're rough and in places. Arriving at Lake Mackenzie, you'll find there's plenty of parking, provided you come before lunch, as all the tourist buses arrive at that time. A short walk of about 200 metres to the lake. You'll pass all the amenities you'll need to make this a pleasant stay. Lake Mackenzie would be the most popular lake on Fraser Island. Its pure white sands and its crystal clear blue water. Lake Mackenzie is a favourite swimming hole for the kids, while the rest of the family can relax on the sand and sunbake. The story goes that the deepest part of the lake is 200 feet deep. Leaving Lake Mackenzie, we head back towards the coast.
Some of the inland tracks on Fraser Island are extremely rough, and you definitely need four-wheel drive.
We pass Lake Wabi.
Lake Wabi is situated 6 kilometres north of Yurong. When visiting Lake Wabi, be prepared for a 40-minute bushwalk through soft sand. The lake is the deepest lake on Fraser Island. Sadly, it is being encroached by a massive sand blow.
Like a treat.
It's never good for my legs. You're alright. Yeah, just took the time to get in and get back out a bit and get
1 hour later, the car enters the beach between Yurong and the Pyongan Rocks. This is the most popular area on Fraser Island for camping, and in the holiday season it's packed. One reason being you're conveniently camped between the town of Yurong and Happy Valley. There are all forms of transport on Fraser Island. Buses, open trucks, motorcycles, even push bikes. This is what makes a holiday on Fraser Island so special. Everyone has something in common: camping, four-wheel driving, fishing and exploring.
We're heading towards Happy Valley now, but on a high tide you can't follow the coast along, so what you have to do is you go inland up here.
Kids call this area here Popeye's Village, and it really suits the name.
Here we're at Happy Valley. The opening of the island's first tourist resort was in the 1930s. However, it wasn't until early 1960 that the island's tourism really took off. Happy Valley now has a new resort, plus an added bonus in its restaurant, in case you feel like a formal meal away from camp. It also has a new general store attached to the resort. There's a service station with all the fuels and a full drive-in service, and the original holiday flats are still near. A short stop, and we continue on our way to our next stop, Eli Creek.
Now this is one of the tragedies of the heavy seas that we've been having here. This large sea snake was washed up on the beach this morning, quite dead. Look at the size of that. He's even got barnacles on him. If you ever see this type of snake in the surf or on the beach, don't touch it because they are very deadly.
Eli Creek is the largest creek that enters into the ocean. On the high tide, vehicles can find trouble on the crossing, and it's dangerous to try. Always get out of the vehicle and inspect the crossing first. From past experiences, we have learnt that the best time to enjoy Eli Creek, Lake Mackenzie, and all the picturesque features on Fraser Island is to arrive early in the day. Leaving Eli Creek, we head north. Just 4 kilometres along, we come across the wreck of the Mahino, slowly breaking up with the continual wash of the waves. Now lying as a useful landmark. The wreck of the Mahino, once a Trans-Tasman liner, was one of the most popular sites and was frequently visited by fishermen and photographers. Even though the wreck of the Mahino is used by fishermen, it isn't recommended as it's very slippery and fragile. There's one famous shipwreck rarely talked about. That is the Stirling Castle, which sank at Swan Reef off Rockhampton in 1836. The few survivors eventually made it to the shores of this island, one being the famous Eliza Fraser. 5 of the survivors died, including Captain Fraser. However, Eliza Fraser and the second officer eventually were rescued. Another shipwreck of interest is the Cherry Venturer, which is stuck fast in the sand only 4 kilometres south of Double Island Point. It was beached there during a cyclone in 1973. There were many attempts to refloat her, but all in vain. As we leave the wreck of the Mahino, we can't help but notice the mountains of beautiful coloured sands. There are many outstanding features on Fraser Island, but few are as spectacular as these coloured sands which stretch for 30 kilometres north from Happy Valley. There are over 60 different coloured sands, ranging from brilliant white, all shades of brown through to jet black. After spending a good half hour inspecting and photographing the coloured sands, we decide Cathedral Beach would be an ideal place to stop. Cathedral Beach Resort is 7 kilometres north of the Mahino. It offers beautifully kept camping grounds, a general store with takeaway foods, plus souvenirs and a service station. And plans are on the way for self-contained flats and a restaurant. The staff and management here always treat customers with a smile and a helpful hand.
Well, that's pretty the word, too. Yeah, look out. I know when you had a look at the areas over there, that's one over there. I don't know much on it.
Indian Head towers 60 metres above sea level with spectacular views of the ocean. Sometimes you can be fortunate to see stingrays and turtles below. Captain Cook was the first European to sight the island during his voyage of 1770. Seeing its eastern shore only, he presumed that the island was a long promontory, and named Sandy Cape the northernmost point. Breaksea Spit and Indian Head, where he saw what he thought were Indians.
Big tail, aren't they?
What do you want, Christine?
Geez, they're big tail, aren't they?
What is it? Yeah, we can see them out here.
The big ones, aren't they?
While you're driving along the beach on the island, you'll notice the oncoming vehicle will flick his blinker. It's to give you an idea on the way he's approaching, and it's a good safety measure as well.
Now we're heading towards Champagne Pools. As you walk along, you'll notice the black sandy base as your feet become darker with each step. The day started out fine, but it's blowing a tremendous storm. Champagne Pools are still a spectacular sight, even under these conditions.
Generally, though, a mostly fine day with only a brief shower or two and fresh southeasterly winds. A top of 28...
Once leaving the Champagne Pools and Middle Rocks, you head 10 kilometres inland to Orchid Beach. The track is narrow and sandy in places. Lots of difficulties have been experienced on this section in the past. A few kilometres before Orchid Beach is a turn to the right, which takes you to Waddy Point, which is a great place for fishing, spectacular ocean scenery, and giant sandhills. Now, if you'd like to really indulge yourself, Orchid Beach Resort is situated 105 kilometres north from Hook Point, overlooking beautiful Marloo Bay. Guests stay in comfortable cabins which are equipped with all amenities set in beautiful tropical surrounds, with a general store, fully licensed restaurant and bar. Looking towards the north behind the tug, you can just capture a glimpse of the Great Sandy Cape, which is our destination. Orchid Beach also has its own airstrip, one of two on the island, the other situated 5 kilometres inland from Dili village. Now this seems like a great idea. Fly straight to your holiday resort bungalow. A short drive out of Orchid Beach is a new modern service station just been completed. Only a few kilometres along the beach, Bob spotted something on the shore.
Now that's a ceramic whiskey jug that's been probably thrown over the side of a boat a fair while back. It's encrusted with gooseneck barnacles. It may have been in the water for anything up to 4 to 5 months for those to attach and grow like that.
Leaving Orchid Beach behind, we have 30 kilometres of beach driving in front of us before reaching Sandy Cape. But be warned, if you don't choose your tides correctly, it'll be the most difficult 30 kilometres you will ever encounter. Unlike the beach on the southern end of Indian Head, the little creeks on the northern end are very few and far between, so it isn't a very popular place for camping. Once passing the soft sandy section, if there's anywhere on Fraser Island you feel alone, it has to be here. Following the coast, the sand driving is good until you reach the first set of rocks. On low tide you can drive around them, but if the tide's in, they're absolutely impassable. We tried to pass on near top tide and came across another party. The difficulty was trying to turn around in only a carling. We walked at first, but where the road is cut is about 1 kilometre from the beginning of the rocks, and it's not seen until you're right on top of it.
We've arrived at Sandy Cape here, and this, to get to Sandy Cape, is the hardest part of the whole journey on Fraser Island when you leave Orchid Beach. The trip to Sandy Cape should only be done on low tides, and you have to allow a few hours each way. You can drive around the Cape here, but we won't be because the tide's in. So we're having a bit of lunch here and the kids are having a swim. And at low tide, behind me, can stretch for miles. We're getting out of there very quick because there's a storm just starting to show up behind us.
Out of all of our travels, Fraser Island would be one of the prettiest places we've ever been to. But more importantly, it'd be one of the safest places where a four-wheel driver can take his family camping. Now, it's impossible to show Fraser Island in a 1-hour tape. I doubt that you'd see it in 2 weeks. Our tape ends here on the most northern point of Fraser Island. One thing for sure, like thousands of four-wheel drivers that visit Fraser Island each year, we'll be